Scripture reading is from John 12, 1 through 11. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus therefore came to Bethany where Lazarus was, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. So they gave a dinner for him there. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those reclining with him at table. Mary therefore took a pound of expensive ointment made from pure nard and anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, he who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this ointment not sold for 300 denarii and given to the poor?" He said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief, and having charge of the money bag, he used to help himself to what was put into it. Jesus said, "Leave her alone, so that she may keep it for the day of my burial. For the poor you always have with you, but you do not always have me." When the large crowd of Jews learned that Jesus was there, they came, not only on account of him, but also to see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. So the chief priests made plans to put Lazarus to death as well, because on account of him, many of the Jews were going away and believing in Jesus. Amen.
All right. Well, good morning. Thank you, Hoon, for reading for us. We are in the midst of a series we are calling Stirred. And what we are doing is we are looking at some interactions that people are having with Jesus and how that interaction with Jesus moves them, shapes them, causes them to act, to react. And we've been seeing this. We kind of been walking through some of the different stories. But really, here's kind of this big idea. Here's the big idea of this week, but also I think that we've seen throughout the whole series. It's this. This big idea is if you interact with the real Jesus, you will be stirred. If you actually interact with Jesus, with who he really is, you are going to be stirred. It's going to happen. That was something about Jesus in the Gospels, okay? He couldn't help but disturb people. There was no such thing as neutral, okay? People could not ignore him. People didn't ignore him. When he showed up, there was a reaction. When he showed up, there was a reaction. And in that passage we just read, in John chapter 12, these first 11 verses, what's so interesting is that we really see that big idea play out in its fullest. We really see this idea that when you interact with Jesus, you're going to be stirred. You see it in the fullest. Here's why. Here's why. Because in this passage, we see the same Jesus, the same moment, and yet 4 different reactions, 4 different stirrings. There's one story, there's one moment, and in it, though, people respond 4 different ways to it. Because when you interact with Jesus, you can't help but to be stirred. You can't help but to have a reaction. And so here's what we're going to do today. Today, what I want to do is I want to look at these 4 different reactions. I want to look at these 4 different stirrings, and I want to kind of see how the story plays out in them. But we're going to do things slightly different. What I want to do is I want to start at the end, and I want to work backwards. I want to start at the later verses, and I want to work our way back. Here's why. Quite frankly, because Mary is at the center of it, and Mary's stirring is the most inspiring, beautiful, wonderful reaction to Jesus. And I don't want to start there and then we lose it in kind of the mess of the other stuff. I want that to be the thing we're left with. And so we're going to work backwards because I want to work our way up to Mary so we can see just how amazing her stirring is. So we're going to start at 4. We're going to work our way back. So here's the first one, starting from the end. We see 4 different reactions. The first reaction comes from the crowds, and they are stirred to understand him. Number one, the crowds, they're stirred to understand him. If you see at the end of the passage between verses 9 through 11, there's this news that the crowds are hearing about Jesus, and so they go out to go see him. They hear about Jesus, and so they want to go out and they want to go see him. And they want to go see Lazarus. See, the story takes place in Bethany. It's the same place where we started week 1, where Lazarus was raised from the dead. And now a little bit of time, not a ton of time, but a little bit of time has passed. And so word has begun to spread about this whole Lazarus miracle. News has spread that Lazarus has come back to life. And here's what's more. Lazarus is alive. He is walking around. He is talking to people. People are hearing that people talk to Lazarus. And so there's this kind of buzz that is brewing in Bethany. People are hearing about Lazarus. And they're beginning to hear about Jesus, and they're wondering, is this really true? Is this really true? They're curious. They're stirred by curiosity. They're wondering, is this actually true? They wanted to know more. They wanted to know if Jesus could be the real deal or if this was just some rumor started in some town. They wanted to know what's real. And so we see in verse 9 that when they hear Jesus is returned, they go and they want to go check out Jesus. They want to go see for themselves. And what's more, they want to go see if his work is real. They want to go see if his miracles are actually real. So they want to go see Lazarus. So they go out and they go and they check. Here's why this stirring, I think, is so important and good for us to see. Because an interaction with Jesus, in an interaction with Jesus' work, with his miracles, with the stuff he does, his plan, it can often stir up curiosity in people. An interaction with Jesus or an interaction with the stuff that Jesus is doing can stir up curiosity in people. And here's what's even more exciting. We see in verses 9 through 11 that it doesn't just stop with curiosity for a lot of these people. Some of them it does, but for a lot, it doesn't end there. It says that their curiosity led to more. It led to them believing for themselves. They saw Lazarus. They saw Jesus. They investigated. They saw it for themselves. They wanted to understand more. And when they understood more, they believed. They committed. See, maybe you are here and you're like the crowd, right? Maybe you saw something. Maybe you heard something. Maybe something happened in your life, your friend's life, a family member's life. Maybe something happened and now you are curious. Maybe you're wondering, what's the deal with Jesus? Right? Is he the real deal? Is this for real? And here's just what I want to say very quickly is this. I just pray that PCC can be a place and a people who can walk alongside you in that curiosity. Can be a people that walk alongside you, that can provide community and fellowship as you search, as you wonder, as you want to figure things out. And even if you want a little bit more, you can check out something called Vertical Life 1. It happens on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. It's a class for those who are curious. It's a place for those who are curious. And right now they're in the middle of their session, but it's going to restart in just a few weeks in Easter, and so it's a good place to get attached to. And I want to say, whatever it looks like or how it goes, I think Jesus is honoring that curiosity. You see it with the crowd. He honors this. It's exciting. Those are stirred to curiosity. So the first way we see that people kind of react to Jesus is this crowd. They're reacting and they're stirred and they want to understand more. But not everything's positive. Actually, it's kind of split in the story. Two of them are more negative. And the second one we see is this, is we see from the religious leaders that some are stirred to hate him. Some are stirred to hate him. Some are stirred and moved to react. They're stirred to hatred. Because of the crowd's curiosity, because of their belief, the religious leaders, they hated Jesus. They hated Jesus. They felt like they were losing their grip on the society. They felt like they were losing their power, and so they hated him for taking it. And this isn't just like they were kind of upset. They hated him to the point of murder, right? They had been plotting and building, and it's kind of been building to this moment to where they want to kill Jesus. But it's taken to the next level in the story. We find out in this story that now they've added Lazarus to their hit list. They're so upset that they've added Lazarus to their list as well. Now they're not just plotting to kill Jesus, they're plotting to kill Lazarus as well. See, Lazarus is the evidence. Lazarus points to who Jesus is. He's evidence that Jesus is real. He's evidence they can't refute. They can't talk people out of, because there he is. He's walking around, he's living, he's breathing. He can tell the story. Lazarus is stirring up curiosity in people. He's stirring up belief in people. And so if Lazarus lives, then the miracle stands. And so they want to remove him. They think if they remove him, then they can weaken Jesus' influence. And this is what's so sad about what we see with this. They're stirred to hatred. And so because they're stirred to hatred, they're not taking the time to stop and to ask themselves, could this be real? Is this true? Is what's happening real? Is this worth it? Are we missing something? No one's stopping asking that question. The only question they're asking is, how do we stop this? And how do we do it fast? It wasn't like they needed more evidence. It wasn't like they needed to be convinced better. There was plenty of evidence. There was a great argument. Lazarus was a better argument than any person could think of or write. If anything, what was happening was they were stirred to hatred, not because Jesus was unclear, but because Jesus was too clear to ignore. And this is the sad reality too. Some will see Jesus and they'll be stirred to hatred. And our response doesn't need to be, well, how can I figure out a better argument? How can I think better? How can I get on the keyboard and type better? But instead, I think we can see, how do I provide peace, patience, and a whole lot of prayer? Some are stirred to hatred. Well, some are stirred to curiosity, some are stirred to hatred, and the third thing we see is this. We see it in Judas at the center of the story. Some are stirred to use Jesus. Some are stirred to use him. In Judas, we see a different way, again, quite negative. We see that some are stirred to use him. We move back into the heart of the story. If we move back into the first middle bit of the verses, basically 1 through 8 even, you can kind of see this play out. Mary walks in. Mary pours out the perfume on Jesus. And when she pours out the perfume on Jesus' feet, Judas interrupts. Judas speaks up. He interrupts what's happening. He says, wait. Why wasn't this perfume sold and the money given to the poor? And I bet he's thinking, wow, that was a pretty good, righteous, holy response right there. I mean, that's top notch, right? Judas is up on his pedestal and he's saying, Mary, you are pouring money down the drain. Mary, we could have used that money for a good thing. You know, taking care of the poor. That thing Jesus tells us to do. Like, we could have done that, and you're just wasting it here. He's up on his pedestal. He says what seems to be this good and holy response. And here's the thing. Selling the perfume for money to take care of the poor, that is a good moral idea. That is a righteous idea. It seems to be backed up by Jesus' own teaching to give to the poor. It should have been a good thing. It was not. It should have been a good thing, but it wasn't. Actually, what's happening here is that Judas gave a very evil suggestion disguised as a righteous one. Judas gave an evil suggestion that he disguised as a righteous one, as a good one, as kind of like what a good person would do. And John doesn't let it slide. I love John. John's my favorite gospel. John was written later than the other gospels, and so sometimes John thought, like when the others wrote these stories, if he felt like maybe there was a detail he wanted to make sure people didn't miss, he would make sure to emphasize it in his story. And so in some of the other accounts of the story, it says, a disciple spoke up, or someone spoke up, or followers spoke up. John doesn't let it slide. He calls Judas out. He lets people know what was really going on. He says, John writes in his gospel for us to see. He says, he did not say this because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. And as the keeper of the money bag, he used to help himself to what was put in it. John does not let him get away with it. He said what seemed like a really good and righteous thing, but that was all a disguise. That was all a ruse. It was really an evil response. Judas doesn't care about the poor. He cares about himself. And here we can see that he sees Jesus as a way to help himself. He sees Jesus as a way to help himself. Jesus is quite dynamic. At this point, he's drawing a crowd. He's changing people's lives. And Judas wants to use some of that dynamic, life-changing moments that are going on to help himself. Right? He's thinking, Mary, if you want to honor Jesus, well, give us the unused, unopened bottle. Give it to us. We'll sell it. Right? And then we'll figure it out. And here's the thing. If the perfume really did cost as much as he says it would have, Judas probably would have got himself a pretty nice commission there. He would have got himself a nice cut. Right? So he's using Jesus, he's trying to at least, trying to use Jesus for himself. Sometimes people are stirred to use Jesus. Right? They find him as handy, as profitable, and they try to get all they can from him. Right? To get more clicks or to get more likes online, to get a leg up, to fill our pockets, or to get more power. Unfortunately, what we see, even here, Jesus interrupts Judas. He says, leave her alone. Right? He sees through it. He says, this is not what I'm about. Jesus is not about this. He's not about people using him to gain the whole world, right? To gain something here, to get an advantage. He's not about people using him to gain an advantage. He's not some Santa Claus, and he's like, hey, you just need to be on the nice list. Because if you're on the nice list, then I'm going to give you presents. Or like the elf version where it's like you just need more Christmas spirit, and like the Christmas spirit changes the thing, so sing loudly for all to hear. And then when you do that, like good will come. He's not saying that. He's not saying, Jesus isn't saying he's a therapist. He's just there to kind of help you feel a certain way. And Jesus is not a really good portfolio manager. Okay? He's not saying, hey, you give more now, and then I'll invest it, and then I'll give you more money later. Now, there's some little bit of investing in the kingdom, but it's much different than a portfolio manager. It's not some get-rich scheme. Okay? He's saying, I'm not some get-rich scheme here for you. And this is the sad reality we see in Judas right here. If, like Judas, we are stirred to use Jesus, then like him too, we would be so close and yet so far away. Judas was so close to Jesus, and he was so far away. I mean, think about it. He walked with Jesus, talked with Jesus, sat next to Jesus, and he's so spiritually far. He couldn't get it. He missed it time and time again. Stirred to use Jesus. He was thinking about himself. Thankfully, the story doesn't end here. This isn't the emphasis on the story. See, while Judas seemingly said all the right words, only to be so far away. Mary was the opposite. Mary was the opposite. She didn't care about looking right, about looking good, about looking the best way in front of others, right? She didn't care about the best words or the best actions. Mary was stirred by Jesus' love to love him back. The fourth one is this from Mary, stirred to love. We see with Mary that she doesn't care what everyone else thinks. She cares what Jesus thinks. She cares about Jesus. At this dinner, in Jesus' honor, Mary comes in and she pours out an expensive perfume on Jesus. She pours it on Jesus' feet and she wipes it with her hair. In this dinner, she walks in, she pours expensive perfume, crazy expensive perfume, on Jesus' feet, and she wipes it with her hair. I hope we're not kind of numb to this story and what happens in the Bible to see that that is a crazy sentence, and that everyone who was there thought it was probably crazy. It was a crazy action for her to do. It was shocking. People would have been shocked. Mary shocked people. What she was doing was not what you did. I mean, Mary was kind of breaking all the rules, but it was worth it to her. See, for starters, Mary is actually breaking all of culture's rules. There's kind of like a culture's rule of what you can do and when you can do it, and Mary is throwing all those out the window. She's breaking all of them. Mary is breaking all of culture's rules in order to praise Jesus. First off, according to culture, the timing was all wrong. Mary's timing was all wrong. According to culture, Mary's timing could not have been worse. In those days, it would have been inappropriate, typically, for a woman to approach a table full of men at dinner. It would have been inappropriate. That would have been the wrong timing. Mary doesn't let that stop her, though. Mary doesn't let what they say is the wrong timing stop her. And here's the crazy thing. Even though it may not have been culture's timing, it was for sure Jesus's. Jesus interrupts in verse 7. He says, "Leave her alone. It was intended that she save this perfume for the day of my burial. You'll always have the poor among you, but you won't always have me. Leave her alone. It was intended for this moment. This is the right moment. It was intended for my burial." Verse 1 sets the scene for us. I know it's only John chapter 12, but John does this thing where basically he does a lot of the 3 years in the first kind of 11 verses or chapters, and then he really slows it down for the second half of his book, and it's basically just the last week of Jesus' life. And so here in 12, John sets the scene. He says it's 6 days before the Passover. You know, that Passover, kind of the Last Supper, the Passover, the end. It takes place in Bethany, just 2 miles away from Jerusalem. It takes place after Lazarus, which is kind of the last miracle he points to. This is the end of Jesus' ministry. This is the end of Jesus' life. Jesus is saying so himself. So Jesus is about to die. And I would say, maybe without even fully knowing it, Mary is preparing Jesus' body for it. Her timing could not have been more perfect. Her timing wasn't bad, it was perfect. Next, when she comes in at the wrong time, part of what she does is she pours the perfume on Jesus' feet. She pours it on his feet, emphasis on the feet. I don't know how weird it is for us. We might hear feet and grimace a little bit. For them, it was mortifying. It was terrible. People back then would have freaked out. Like, feet were nasty. They're nasty a little bit now, but they were nasty back then. Okay, they all walked on the dirt roads, they walked in the mud, they walked in all sorts of stuff. Their feet were disgusting. And it was considered a disgrace to touch feet. We actually know that if you just look over at like a page or two later, we see the story of Jesus washing the disciples' feet, and all the disciples are freaking out because they're like, that's a disgrace. You don't touch someone's feet. Like The lowest of the low are the only people who would do that. There's actually some Jewish traditions that suggest that foot washing was considered too low even for a Jewish servant. So it was the lowest of the low to work with feet in that day. Mary pours perfume on Jesus' feet. She is taking a position of humility. She's taking the lowest of the low in those days. And what's more, Mary pours the perfume on Jesus' feet, and she wipes it with her hair. She wipes it with her hair. Hair was like a woman's glory. It was her pride. Usually they would keep it up, except for very specific moments. And again, we already learned this is not one of the timings. This is not one of the moments. But Mary does so anyways. And she wipes the perfume with her hair. And in doing so, Mary is laying down all of her pride at the feet of Jesus. She is humbling herself, and she is laying her pride at the feet of Jesus. She is breaking down all of culture's norms. She's not letting that stop her from praising her Savior. And here's what's more. The next note is this. Mary does it. She's willing to do it publicly. Mary is willing to praise Jesus publicly. She's doing all these things that were considered like no. She's lowering herself. She's taking on a position of humility. She's giving up her pride. And she's willing to do it publicly. She's saying, I don't care what anyone else thinks. I only care what you think, Jesus. Wow. That's inspirational. Because I think a lot of times it's easy to praise Jesus. This is even something we talk about often in youth group. It's easy to praise Jesus on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night. One of the beauties of church, we have strength in numbers, we have community, we have fellowship. It's nice to sing with other people singing with you. That's a good thing. But one of the things we talk about is, man, it's so much harder on a Monday. It's harder on a Tuesday, really hard on a Friday. Like Friday is my day. It's hard on another day. Mary, though, is willing to praise Jesus publicly. It might be easy to do it at church or youth group, but man, it was hard at school, they would say. Feels different. Mary will praise him publicly, but can we say the same? And it's not just like making sure we have kind of the right virtue signals or all those kind of signs. But it's just, can we choose Jesus? And can we choose his way with our words and our actions, with our attitude every day? Mary was willing to love Jesus, even when it went against culture, even when it was public, and even when it was costly. That's the next thing we see. Mary was willing to worship even when it was costly. Her pouring out this perfume is an extravagant display of love. She's going all out, right? It's expensive. We actually find out from the passage how expensive it is. Judas says it's worth a year's wages. It's worth your whole year's salary, right? Jesus is saying it's worth a whole year's salary. It's worth a whole year's wages. I tried to do some math for you, and I did very low. So in California, if we were using the minimum wage, okay? I don't know how much that applies to here, but if we were using the minimum wage in California, that bottle would have been worth $35,000 in today's money. A year. She is pouring that out. And by pouring that money out, she is pouring out her treasure. And pouring that out, she's pouring out her comfort. That's a whole year's salary. You're going to have to work a little harder or save a little differently or live a little tighter after having that. She's pouring out her safety, her security. There's no more savings accounts. There's no more rainy day fund. If a rainy day happens, you don't have a fund to lean on. What she did was costly. It was costly. See, Mary wasn't letting money or pride or culture get in the way of loving Jesus. This is such a huge display of love, such an awe-inspiring, shocking display of love. It cost her financially. It cost her socially. And we have to be thinking, like them, why? Why is she doing this? Why is she willing to go so far? Here's why, and it's on your notes. Because Mary understands that Jesus is incomparable. Mary understands, I was hoping that wasn't just the back screen. Mary understands that Jesus is incomparable. I'm going to have you do a quick exercise. Okay, I'm sorry, but it will make sense. I want you for just a moment to think, and I'm going to give you a moment, so don't worry. I want you to think, what's your favorite food? Okay, the question is, what's your favorite food? I'm going to give you a few seconds, not that long for this one because it should come to mind pretty fast. What's your favorite food? Think for just a second. Close your eyes if you need to imagine it. Okay, I'm not giving you too long for this one or that one because I need to give you a few extra moments. Okay, here's what I want you to do now. I want you to, in a sense, make a new friend. I want you to tell the person next to you or near you what your favorite food is or a favorite food, and where do you love to get it? What's like a place you like to get that food? Okay, I'm going to give you like 45 seconds or so. So talk to someone, maybe make some lunch plans. What is your favorite food? Where is a place you love to get that food? All right, only a few more seconds because everyone's going to be hungry now and they're not going to be able to focus. All right, can I quickly hear some? Who's brave? Shout out a food you like. Tacos. Okay, yes. Who else? Who's got something? Chocolate. Yes. What? Lasagna. Okay. Now we're talking. We got a ribeye. Okay. Ice cream. Yes. Good. Sushi. Good. Yeah. What do you got? Yeah. Ooh, whoa. Okay. We're getting adventurous. I like it. Okay. We got a lot of good options. Now you're all hungry. So that's why I have to do this at the end because you're all focused on lunch. One of my favorite foods is Chicago deep dish pizza. One of my favorite foods is Chicago deep dish pizza. Now, deep dish pizza is not like normal pizza. It looks like this. That's Chicago deep dish. Okay, so whoever said lasagna, it's actually maybe a little bit closer to that. Okay, it's not normal pizza. It's incredibly thick. The toppings shouldn't maybe be called toppings because they go in the middle. There's an aggressive amount of cheese. Aggressive amount. That looks aggressive, does it not? A little bit. I think that's Giordano's, yeah. All right, and it's delicious, okay? When I was doing my master's degree, I would fly out to Chicago once a year for a week, and on the first day, I would order an extra large deep dish pizza, and then, I don't know, like it was the apocalypse, I would just ration it out for the week, and I made sure I had deep dish pizza for every day while I was there, because it's the best. Well, the other day, we were walking around the grocery store, and I saw this in the frozen food section. This is a Geno's East frozen deep dish pizza. It's like a microwave frozen deep dish pizza, but it is Geno's East, which is actually a famous place in Chicago you would get deep dish pizza from. So we bought it. We took it home. We cooked it up. And it looked like this. I was scared. It disappointed. And frankly, if you have to microwave something for 6 minutes, it probably is going to disappoint, right? It disappointed. I was left sad. I was left wanting more. I was let down, right? Frozen food, frozen pizza, it can't compare to Chicago deep dish pizza. It can't compare. It's not in the same ballpark. It's nowhere close to the real thing. And so now I'm left with this. I'm left wanting more. And so I hop on Google and I spend too much time researching. I plan out a map and I drive. I spend over an hour in the car driving. And I spend time waiting in a pizza shop. And I come home triumphantly with some actual deep dish pizza from Chicago. Well, not really from, but like Chicago-style deep dish pizza from an actual pizza restaurant. So we had the real thing last night. And it did not compare. It was incomparable to the frozen stuff. The frozen stuff, oh man, didn't hit the same. That was a lot of work, but it was worth it. Once you've tasted and seen the goodness of Chicago deep dish pizza, nothing else will compare. The cheap version won't satisfy you anymore. So it is with Jesus. So it is with Jesus. Once you've tasted and seen of his goodness, of his love, the cheap version, the knockoff, the frozen, it won't satisfy you anymore. The things Judas was trying to get, they don't compare. The comfort, the money, the fame, the praise, those are all just like frozen pizza. It won't really satisfy you. You're going to be left bloated, disappointed, looking for something new. Mary, though, Mary has experienced the love of Jesus. She knows he's the real deal. She watched him bring her brother back to life. And that was just the cherry on top, because even before that miracle, Mary is most known for sitting at the feet of Jesus and listening to him. That's what she was famous for. See, here's the thing. When we are stirred by love, when we're stirred by the incomparable love of Jesus, the love that is willing to go to the cross, even when we don't deserve it, a love that chases us down, what we see is that love, that stirring, will change us. It changes who we are. That stirring will make us and change us and allow us to do crazy things. Things that everyone else watching is like, why would they do that? Why would they go that far? Why are they willing to give that much, or whatever it is? You're willing to pour out your perfume, even though it's costly, even though it's uncomfortable, because we know he's worth it. And so as we close, I just want to leave you with this. I just want to ask this question. How is Jesus stirring you? How is Jesus stirring you? When we really interact with Jesus, he's going to stir us. One way or another, some way, shape, or form, he's going to stir us. So how is he stirring you? If Jesus is stirring you the same way he was stirring Mary, if he is stirring you to just see how great his love is, how incomparable it is, then maybe the question to think about this week, to pray about this week, to sit in this week, is what is most valuable to me? I'm not asking you to dump out your savings account, but I'm asking you to take what Mary did seriously and to think, what's the most important thing to me? What's the most valuable thing? What do I place on the throne of my life? Is it safety? Is it status? Is it comfort? Is it stuff? Is it health? Is it someone? What are these things? And then what would it look like to pour that out at the feet of Jesus? And so perhaps it's just to pray this simple prayer, and it's on your thing. Lord, help me pour out whatever it is for you. I'm not going to fill in your blank. That's for you to sit in to pray, to process. And then when you feel like you've been stirred, to hand that over. Will you join me in praying now? God, you are so good. Lord, your love is incomparable. There is nothing like it. God, it wows us, it moves us. God, it stirs us to do seemingly crazy things, but things that are worth it because you are worth it, Lord. And so we just ask to be a people in a place, Lord, who can love you back, who can reflect your love, God, and just are more and more moved by you, God. And so we are gracious and grateful for all that you've done, God, and we just ask that you keep doing it and keep letting us see your love for what it is. We pray in your name. Amen.